Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another shot of nostalgia right here at the Turnbuckle Tavern. I'm good old Mike Belcaster. We are driving down straight into episode 7, 1998, baby. We got 2 episodes of Raw. We got an Unforgiven in the middle, and I got this beautiful, handsome son of a bitch next to me. Get it out there.
Live from the No Sales Seduced at the ACEFIELD Tavern, ACEFIELD Retro. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. Hope you guys are drinking a tall pint of Guinness, having some Irish soda breads, maybe some corned beef and cabbage, and enjoying, of course, your entree into the weekend, bro. What else is better than this? It's Shot of Nostalgia 1998, and what a hell of an episode we're into. As you mentioned, 3 episodes of Raw. We got the first ever Unforgiven. A lot of good stuff, Mike Belcaster.
Crazy, man. I can't believe this is the first ever Unforgiven, too. It was the staple of pay-per-views through our childhood, through our wrestling fandom, and we kick it off super hot. It was what a badass show, man.
All right, well, as we mentioned, Mike Belcaster mentioned it, this will be the April 20th Raw. We're going to have Unforgiven sandwich in between, and of course, we're going to end with the April 27th Raw. A lot of influential events. April 20th, it's important to me. We'll get into it. It's from Long Island, New York. It's the first wrestling show I ever went to as a kid. So I was 9 years old attending a show here, and we'll get into that in my experience. Unforgiven 1998, the pay-per-view, of course, do love getting a title shot and the Inferno match. And then April 27th, that famous misremembered moment in Raw for remainder of time. Everyone says DX invaded Nitro and tanks. It wasn't tanks, man. It was just a Jeep.
It was just a Jeep, man. The harmless Jeep. They should have let him in. I still wish they would have opened it up and let him in.
Knock, knock. DX is here.
Razor.
All right, let's get into happy hour, my man. And let's talk about everything going on in April of 1998.
Happy hour.
Poor Dusty, man. He's still getting hit on. We gotta switch it up next season so Dusty gets a break.
Maybe we could find an equivalent thing of Cody Rhodes getting attacked or something where he can make a similar bear-like noise. It would be very akin to what's in here for Shot Nostalgia. But
I like it.
We talked about before, April 20th, 1998, the newsletter that dropped. And the whole newsletter and the one from the 27th, full transparency, is absolutely littered with Ric Flair news and the inner workings of WCW and how much is falling apart. And the reason why this has a lot to do with WWF 1998, Mr. Belcaster, is because there are rumors potentially that Ric Flair could wind up back in WWF, which is wild to think about.
Yeah, imagine you pop in WWF No Mercy, you're sitting at home and you're able to be Ric Flair in the midst of all this madness. I'd be so pumped.
All right, so we obviously talked about how Raw finally beat Nitro for the first time in 83 weeks, but Meltzer says far bigger stories than the end of the WCW 83-week winning streak due to the Vince McMahon Steve Austin angle being ended, which began on June 17th, 1996, which is apropos that we covered that, and we made it all the way here to this point where we were talking about the end of the streak. There's internal problems within WCW that could have Turner going sideways, and the situation where Ric Flair being front and foremost what's going on here. We've talked about it. Any Ric Flair doctrine informational thing we talk about, we all recognize that WCW mistreated Ric Flair in the latter years of his career. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But do you remember, like as a kid, because I do remember even as a young adult, when Ric Flair transitioned to WWE, again, when he became like the half owner and he's feuding with Vince, he was a broken, shattered man, and it's because Eric Bischoff for things like this.
Yeah, no, and I mean, Rick talks about it constantly. Triple H gave him back his confidence. Shawn Michaels gave him back his confidence. It's insane, and I mean, I couldn't imagine the mental stress he was going through in the WCW run. I mean, the later years were not pretty by any means, and Rick was on a really shit under the stick for that, man. It sucks, but I can't even fathom him being in 99 or 1998 on Monday Night Raw. It would be fucking insane.
Yeah, and the Extra Cooler Boys were talking about their best WrestleMania matches and their favorites, I should say, on their list. And they were talking about WrestleMania 18 and Ric Flair versus Undertaker, and how looking back now, he doesn't look old at all. But going back then, you're like, oh, ancient. It's crazy to think about. He really wasn't that old here. Just he looked old.
Yeah, well, I think perception was crazy back then for all of us, because we thought like Hogan was old. We're at 95, Hogan looked old, Ric Flair, but obviously they were still young, plentiful careers ahead of them.
So we talked about Ric Flair. The future of Ric Flair is in doubt, according to Meltzer, which is probably the week. He said the situation with the company is unchanged, but far more public knowledge. WCW within just 2 months was the unquestioned top promotion in the country, is now way ahead in talent, way ahead in names, but they're falling behind in television ratings. And it seems like WWF has taken the lead. And little did we know, they took the lead for good at this point.
Yeah, no, it's insane, man. The tides change quickly, and man, the hell did it happen quick?
Meltzer of interest couldn't have been worse for WCW because starting 427, Nitro will be getting bounced around due to the NBA hoops for Raw to build momentum and ratings record going on. So we see all this all the time on TBS, TNT.
Yeah,
AEW gets the boot sometimes for sports, and that's also, this was an issue, I guess, when you run with a sporting network that sports take the forefront. Sometimes you got to deal with the backlash of it.
no, it was the worst. I hated it when I was a kid, man, because you miss your normal like nightly routine coming home from school, getting your shit together and getting ready to watch some good old Monday Night Wrestling.
Yeah, so Flair's future is not the only one in question. Over the weekend, when ECW ran house in Philadelphia, several WCW wrestlers, Guerrero, Ming, Scotty Riggs, Scott Hall, at one time or another, for various reasons, came to the show to talk to Paul Heyman about potentially getting a job there. And Meltzer says the Hall situation may be the most talked about, but in reality, it's just a trivial story. Malenko and Guerrero were making it clear to the wrestlers and others backstage they want out of their WCW deals, like Chris Benoit's end in November of 1999. We know they all leave. Everyone wants to abandon ship. And it started with the Sean Waltman stuff.
No, absolutely. This is grim. I mean, I know the Sean Waltman thing happens in 98, but I mean, from now until this 1999 period, it gets worse and worse and worse. And everybody had to get the hell out of there.
So Eric Bischoff in his podcast has since denied this, but apparently in the back, when they did one of those talent meetings to ease the tensions, he went off the deep end and started talking about how certain guys don't put asses in seats. And Meltzer says that rubbed all of them the wrong way. And he said Malenko, through his lawyer, has been attempting since the hiatus to find a way out of his contract, doesn't want to go back. Jericho's deals ends earlier, but with him getting a big push, he'd appeared less likely to leave before, although there's been attempts of putting Benoit, Guerrero, and Jericho packaged together. Because the situation in New Japan and WCW is unclear, the options of those wrestlers can't be certain. So we know the future. We have the benefit of looking towards the future and knows what happens. All these guys leave, and it's evident that Eric Bischoff is really losing control of the talent in the locker room.
Yeah, it's wild to think that they thought Jericho was hanging on too, because he's the first one to go.
And then the other key piece stuff is the relationship with Mexico and Japan, and they mentioned him here. Rey Mysterio Jr., who we just got announced to being the WWE Hall of Fame this year. WWF is close to or perhaps already finalized deal that almost forced them to develop Spanish-speaking superstars. Ironically, deals that were proposed to and talked about in WCW for more than a year and never got completed. That never really comes to fruition, but it seems like Conan is talking to WWF about bringing relationships over there. We know the light heavyweight championship is somewhat important to them. Obviously, not as important as the cruiserweight division was, but just the fact that they're even talking about that, it just shows how much has changed in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
We also have Abdullah the Butcher popping up in here, and that's why I want to mention him here, because Abdullah the Butcher, anytime you see him mentioned, but the reason why he was mentioned was rumors that he potentially could be managing Val Venus. So they mentioned Jacqueline Moore, who's Jacqueline the wrestler, Marlena. But Abdullah the Butcher popping up, imagine him managing the porn star Val Venus. Makes no sense to me.
It would remind me of like a role that they kind of gave Viscera. Imagine if it was Abdul the Viscera,
It seems right par for the course with WWE, though. That's what they would do. A legend of someone who made their steak outside. I just got done watching a shoot interview with Vader, how much they ruined him. So Abdullah the Butcher is, I'm glad he didn't do this.
Me too. It would have been a very uncomfortable mix.
WWF has at least inquired about Jenna Jameson managing Venus, as ECW was asked about their deal with her, and that's coming to an end anyway. So Jenna Jameson, famous adult film star, would make sense to manage Val Venus? I'm sure it would cost more than an in-house talent. And did it really bring so much to legitimacy to the character? I'm not sure if it adds enough to warrant how much you probably have to pay her.
Yeah. Good publicity, though.
So you were at a parade this weekend, and Shawn Michaels was the grand marshal of a masquerade parade in San Antonio over the weekend.
Damn.
While his name will continue to be mentioned on TV and he will return at some time, there are no plans at all in the works for him that other than he'll return or either rejoin DX or feud with them. But we do know there's major backstage problems behind the scenes with him that need to be rectified when it comes to his behavior. Now that they have other guys carrying that cowbell, man, like Steve Austin's the guy. They're not going to put up with Shawn Michaels bullshit if he isn't going to be able to be active. Why bring him back until he's mature and rehabilitated?
Yeah, 100%. And you got the guy like Steve Austin who, carries himself in such a better mannerism. Why would you want to go back and deal with somebody who's giving you problems all the time? And totally.
So in here too, Scott Taylor, who is Scotty Too Hottie, he's going to be given the nickname Too Hot and form a regular team with Brian Christopher's Too Hot and Too Sexy. First time we're mentioning Too Cool here. And the evolution of Too Cool happens over time. They're this rookie looking tag team wearing matching tights, one green, one orange. And who would have thought, man, I go back to Royal Rumble 2000 when they're in the ring, they get the biggest pop of the night where they dance for Rikishi. And yeah, that's the highest of heights that those guys reach. And we all know that like it's flash in the pan, but it's so interesting to me when you see these guys on TV, especially 98, like there's no connection with the audience and all of a sudden they catch fire.
Yeah, no, listen, everybody had the bucket hat. Everybody was rocking the sunglasses, the big baggy jeans. When it clicked, man.
And finally, here on the April 20th, 1998 newsletter, we got Phil Mushnick, who is an infamous voice here in the New York area. He's very critical of, usually in the sporting scene, but very critical of pro wrestling going forward. And he was in the April 6th New York Post article, and he goes off about wrestling, and he says, if the Times stay on top of things, as according to New York Times, it will be able to report that pro wrestling is infested with steroid abuse and other illegal drug use, a story that's about a dozen years old. And I quote, and that pro wrestlers have this nasty habit of dropping dead or committing suicide at around age 30, a story that's only about 10 years old. So very horrible article, bitter old man making comments about wrestling, and his vendetta against Vince McMahon is quite evident here. And it just shows, obviously in the newspapers, they're catching some steam here. WrestleMania 14 caught the sporting world's attention with Mike Tyson, and now people are targeting it as like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. I don't want my kids watching this. And they don't shake that image for a very long time. It takes and it just shows like for them to go public,
yeah,
they had to overcome shit like this. And it's not that long ago.
No, not at all. It's wild.
Crazy, crazy stuff. But let's get to the April 27th newsletter. And this is where the Ric Flair stuff came to a head. We're getting some information about why Ric Flair is being sued for $2 million from Eric Bischoff for leaving and taking time off that wasn't quote unquote approved. And here are the facts as of right now, April 27th, 1998, of what we know. Apparently Eric Bischoff, in a meeting with the wrestlers on April 13th before Nitro in Minneapolis, ran Flair down to an amazing degree, calling him, quote, a swerve artist and a bullshit artist, and talked about the no-show in Tallahassee a few days earlier. And he said the plans for both the Four Horsemen and Revival in a Bischoff-Flair angle that he claimed was thwarted by Flair's actions, and then claimed Flair was done with the company, that he'd make an example out of him, including a vow to sue him into bankruptcy. And he said, yeah, he's going to take him for everything he's worth. So this is all stemming from him going to see his son, his younger son, in a wrestling tournament. Flair says that he asked for time off. Bischoff says he never asked for it. This seems like it's blown up into a bigger situation than it needed to be.
Yeah.
Classic mountain out of a molehill type of situation. And goddamn, like, he's Ric Flair. You're going to make this big of a deal. It seems like it's deeper than just this issue right here.
Yeah, and if it's not, I mean, it's just one of the, it pulls back to the X-Pac, situation where he's trying to make a power move, and it's going to be a negative thing for him and the boys, and it'll backfire. People hear that shit. Nobody, if you have a job and your boss is shady and everybody's getting fucking picked on, you don't want to work there because you feel like you're going to be targeted next. It's a bad atmosphere. So yeah, Bischoff's a dick, man.
But you nailed it on the head, dude. It's a cultural issue right here. And now this sort of comes into our lane here, WWF 1998. And this WWF is leaning into this a little bit, and they were using their leverage and the internet wasn't as popular. The IWC didn't really exist, but they were trying to create a buzz because ironically, their pay-per-view was in Greensboro, which is the home and it's Flair country. So maybe they're trying to get pay-per-view buys to think maybe he'll show up from this. And of course he's not able to. We know how contracts work, but that doesn't stop people from hoping and wishing that Ric Flair would come through that curtain and challenge Stone Cold Steve Austin. But Meltzer continues. He said, Flair has had no formal talks as we can ascertain with the WWF, nor without the release due to his existing lawsuit between the two companies. Flair has made no bones about the fact to those close to him that he's interested in going to the WWF, particularly since WWF has no strong opponents for Steve Austin. These guys got in the ring in 2002 for a brief period before Austin walked away. I'm thinking peak Stone Cold against a 1998 Ric Flair. Is that an interest to you? Do you think that potentially could have like WrestleMania 15 level or maybe a SummerSlam? Like, would you throw out The Rock and Austin at 15 to get a Flair Austin match at a big level? Or do you think no?
I don't not with the way he was being booked in WCW. I think they needed that time for him to kind of come in and rebrand himself, collect his shit. And that because if you watch the Ric Flair that was going on in WCW, you're like, this guy's a lunatic. He's stripping in the ring. He's yelling at Mean Gene all the time. Like, he's not wrestling. Like it was a weird era for Flair, man, because they were putting him down so much that the fans would. I don't think the fans gave a shit about Flair in '98. So a SummerSlam, hell yeah. Mania, not '98.
I completely agree with you. And I go back to my 9-year-old self watching this and understanding how I felt about Ric Flair. I remember I got a Ric Flair action figure for Christmas and I was like, I couldn't care less about him. As I became older as a wrestling fan, watching his whole anthology of matches and how great he really is in 1998. Remember when I put those blinders on, we're in this year. I think you're right. I don't think he has the drawing power. And he probably would admit to that. The WCW did such a good job of beating him down and ruining his image, where it even took WWE a long time to build it back up. And he's coming in with all that legacy, and it feels like he's just a t-shirt wrestler. And it's crazy to think how much it took to get him back up to the point where he's wrestling Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 24. From then, losing to Rico on Raw, like that's where it was. So it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, go back to '95 when they were trying to put him out then. Ric Flair was always the talk, like, don't, screw it. He's the old guy. We got to move on and pass the torch. He was like, what, early 40s?
45, 42, like in 95. Yeah.
So you're talking all that animosity, all that angst building up for 3 years. And Flair doing this shit when he was just going to visit his kid. It's terrible, man. Absolutely terrible.
So World Championship Wrestling Incorporated filed a very real $2 million lawsuit against Flair in Fulton County, Georgia's Superior Court, claiming a breach of contract by no showing the Tallahassee and Minneapolis. And Meltzer says that Bischoff put in the quote, played havoc with the script of a wildly popular production. So that's what was said. He sued him for it. And the suit charges Flair with missing the April 9th Thunder in Tallahassee, the April 13th Nitro in Minneapolis, and the April 14th WCW Saturday Night in Manteco, Minnesota. That's very WCW town, Manteco, Minnesota. And the 415 house show in Duluth, Minnesota. Very WCW town, by the way, as well. And the paperwork says it disrupted WCW's ability to introduce its planned story, causing significant loss of time, money, and effort by WCW. Meltzer says, what is interesting regarding that phrase is the knowledge that WCW really does little planning in advance, and all ideas and angles are being constantly changed often until the very moment when wrestlers go through the curtain, which in many cases is almost the opposite of WWF with this long-term planning. That was interesting to me too. I highlighted in my notes because I was like, that's what WWE became. Like they became what they hated, what they mocked. And even these DQ finishes, I remember watching two things about Raw and Nitro. When you'd switch over, Nitro went to commercial during matches. Raw never did that during this time. And DQ finishes, as we're seeing 1998, maybe I had my blinders on, they would at least give you meaningful finishes and big moments. WCW, in my mind, as a kid, didn't. Obviously, now we're looking at it from a different angle. They did do the exact same thing. But the commercial thing bothered me all to hell. And changing the plans, too, dude. Like, that's what they do now.
100%, man. Listen, the picture-in-picture thing, commercials, It's never going to get over with me. I hate it. I don't want to see it during title matches. I don't even want to see it. But if you're going to do it, keep it out of my goddamn title matches, my main events. Give me 15 minutes of solid wrestling. That's all you need. Like, I don't get it, man. It's crazy. I'm hot about it now.
So continuing this about the Flair never telling anyone in advance about his son being in a wrestling tournament. There were people in the company who knew about Flair's son in the tournament, although what date they would have been aware of it isn't clear, but at least one person knew about it, and word was certainly out about it in the morning of 4/7. Money is definitely involved too, because they have a track record of Kevin Nash no-showing Starrcade with even less notice, but Bischoff didn't punish him to the extent that he's trying to punish Ric Flair. People are looking at this as like, you clearly are playing favorites.
Yeah, it's wild, man. Absolutely wild.
But Bischoff is making it clear to everyone that will listen that he believes that Flair is trying to find a way to go to WWE, and that's why he's doing these things. And I think that's why Bischoff has his backup.
Power trip, man. He was high on ratings and then it's starting to fade away, and he's like fucking panic mode. He's like Scarface. It's
100%.
Got to his head.
Part two that they're bringing up here is maybe this is an angle because of all the shit that went on with Pillman in 1996. Is there a chance in your mind that this could be an angle? Like if you're watching this live, like you see Bischoff pulling off something like this as an angle?
No, maybe, but no. He'll get a little maybe, but no way now.
So Meltzer puts the caveat in here and he says, if it wasn't an angle, it would be very difficult not only for Bischoff to take Flair back after telling everyone Flair was done, but for Flair to come back after his character was buried to that degree by the boss. So if it wasn't an angle, it would seem poor judgment by Bischoff altogether. And the belief is he's smarter than that. So this is also like very akin to what's going on with Punk. Everyone wants to believe it's a work. Everyone wants to talk about potentially like inner workings are not the same as what's happening on screen, but I'm sure if we were on the Tavern, someone would be saying like, oh, this is all work with Flair. He's going to come back. No worries. It's Ric Flair. They have a relationship. It's WCW.
But he does come back. So it's crazy. Flair's the
oh my God. So
game.
We also have the historical ramifications of this Belcaster, and Ric Flair is obviously not just another wrestler on the roster. He's not so the fact that he's being treated like this is an absolute crime to a lot of the WCW audience and the roster.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's Ric Flair. It's crazy.
And I mean, mostly what Meltzer pulls away from this, he said wrestlers being in an environment they not only work in, but also living in life is a work to begin with. That's something I highlighted as well. It certainly seems very akin to what's going on today. Like wrestling history repeats itself.
Yeah.
We also have, obviously, comparing this to the Vince McMahon Bret Hart situation, and Meltzer mentions that some people believe this is a work as well, and they'll never convince them anyway that it's not a work. It's just interesting to see how this all ties together, because like we all look at it from the lens of so far away. Now we're looking at it with the aid of history and what actually happened. But I'm sure there's people in the time that are like, this is a work, this is an angle to garner more ratings.
No, yeah. No, it's listen, but that's the beauty of wrestling, because if it is an angle, it's going to work. People are going to love it. They're eating it up and they're already talking about it. So they're already hooked, line and sinker, much like the same thing with the Punk thing. If it is an angle, it's going to be a great fucking angle. And it's going to sideswipe a lot of casual fans. But I mean, that only works for a certain demographic, right? So like, it's not going to get over with everybody. And it's going to be like, a lot of people are going to get salty about shit, much like with the CM Punk thing. And there's going to be people that are, I'm Ric Flair, ride or die. Ooh, yeah, baby.
Yeah, dude. And I think it's so appropriate to even talk about, like, because what you just said is so true. And Meltzer says, if it is an angle, it appears to be done only for the wrestlers and a few inside fans, which on the surface sounds really stupid. Although in this environment, even that is possible. And Bischoff is one of the architects, along with Kevin Sullivan and Brian Pillman, of the Pillman angle, which we found out was a work. So okay, there's no way this guy's this big of a dick that he would alienate the whole locker room But maybe that's what he was doing. But I think clear as day now, Ric Flair, who we know has the truth serum put in his body, like he doesn't lie anymore about anything.
Yeah.
He tells you how it is. Like he would tell you if this was a work.
No, absolutely. I think we would have it would have been on 5 shoot interviews by now.
So yeah, I mean, this is like again tying it together 30 years from the day, pretty much. Like we also have situations with CM Punk and people trying to get in business together, and we eventually see Flair come back too. That's what you mentioned before. Like I don't think anyone could hate each other more than Flair and Bischoff, and they made it work. So that means everyone, for me, I believe that anybody can make it work. Very similar to Punk, FTR, the Bucks, and the Elite.
And 4 years from now, we're going to be watching the last Dynamite, and it's going to be Punk and Bryan Danielson closing the show.
Oh my God! Don't speak.
It's going to be Punk and Sting. There you go.
Who's wearing a shirt? Is it Bryan Danielson wearing a shirt?
That's why I said it's got to be Sting, because it's like Sting closed out Nitro. So like, we'll just keep going. He's got another 4 or 5 years left.
So we have some numbers here as far as what the ratings are and the attendance are. And I just want to read you some of these numbers because the WWF is on fire. And we know that obviously through the lens of talking about wrestling's popularity. But what does it really mean? An estimated attendance in March of 98 was up 82.5% from that exact time last year. So the average attendance, 10,363. That includes house shows, pay-per-views, and television shows. So they're drawing almost, 10,500 fans on any given night. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, and I remember it because it was like it's the if you build it, they will come mentality. Because you just slap a wrestling ring in a building, it didn't matter what the fuck they were doing. People just wanted to be in that phenomenon. That was like, oh, we're gonna be on TV. We can put your sign. We get our sign on TV. Like I'm gonna dress like fucking Vader. Hell yeah, dude! High five! Like everybody wanted to do it. It was a party, and that's the love of pro wrestling. WWF was fucking hot, man.
So speaking of the attendance, we go with the average gate, which includes the merchandise at the venue. And in March of 1997, it was 91,680. The average gate as of March 98 was 172,244, up a staggering 87.9%. Crazy. They're pulling in money hand over fist, and you can thank DX, you can thank Stone Cold, you can thank Vince McMahon, you can thank even Bret Hart. So much of it caught fire following Survivor Series 97.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, man.
So the average cable rating in 1997 of March was 1.6. They more than doubled that. Now they are pulling a 2.5, which is up 56.3%. Insane. I mean, they're pulling out sellouts. The two Raws we watch here, they're sold out.
Yeah.
The Unforgiven sets a building record. Think about the long history of the Greensboro Coliseum. They set a attendance record there. So they're onward and upward, man. They're just getting hotter and hotter. And we're not quite at the peak yet, but we are damn close.
Hell yeah. I missed the attendance records announcements. Like that. When was the last time a backlash? Yeah. Broken attendance records. It was awesome when you would hear it.
That's a very good point, because I feel like, we used to hear it at Judgment Day, like, oh, this is the Seattle building record. That's part of it.
Like it's fully loaded, and we crushed it. We have 80,000 people in the building. Like, what the fuck? Where did that happen?
So we also have a confrontation, which we don't have a lot of information, but I just love when they mention Dennis Coralluzzo because he's our boy from NWA, and he had a lot of the history in ECW. There was an altercation backstage between Coralluzzo and Jerry Lawler, because apparently Coralluzzo wanted to book Brian Christopher and didn't like the way that Lawler didn't like the way Christopher would have been used, according to Dennis Coralluzzo. So I don't know, whatever.
Weird.
The other thing they mentioned too, before we move on from the newsletter, was Meltzer says, even though WWF has better stories, it is clear that WCW can deliver a better wrestling product, and WWF doesn't have the talent to compete. That's interesting too, because we look at AEW's roster today. Yeah. I think if you put the two rosters next to each other and you want to play, say you're picking a team of the best wrestlers in the world, and this is probably going to cause controversy, but I would say AEW has, as far as work rate goes, the better talent pool of wrestlers. Let's be honest. But that doesn't mean that it is the hotter product. I think when you compare even March of 2023, compare both products, and you're watching the shows, the Bloodline angle is clearly hotter than whatever AEW is going on. Work rate be damned, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the talent of the wrestler, it matters the stories you're telling. And I think that's clear throughout every era of wrestling.
Yeah, 100%. But I'll give the Bloodline thing, like, it's over as shit. It's a great story, but that's what happens when you take somebody's career to build it. I mean, that's basically Roman's just been this terrible, forced in her throat kind of person, and then he found, oh, this works. I could be a prick, and I could be so arrogant and cocky, and it works. And everybody got into it, and then it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and they added more to it, and the Sammy thing happened, and it was beautiful, and that's the most thing I could compare that to with AEW is the Elite and Hangman. And it feels like that was so long ago now, where what else do you got? Like, where else do we go with it? And they got to figure out their rhythm still. They're early, they're a baby company. They still got a lot of shit to learn, but it's still, yeah, absolutely. Talent pool wise, great. Storylines, when they get you, they fucking get you, So
yeah.
But that's wrestling.
Yeah, and I think a lot of too, like, I don't know. I think Tony Khan pulls from a lot of the wrestling history. He'll pull from ECW, he'll pull from WCW, who will pull from this era of WWF. I think what really is telling is, and WWF, WWE, they get criticism for this, but they stick to their plan a lot of the times, despite what the be. Like, I think there's a huge divide of maybe like everyone would have pulled the trigger on Sami Zayn. Maybe Tony Khan would have made that decision, but ultimately we won't be able to tell what was the right decision. And maybe it was the right decision to stay on that track. I was vocally critical of that decision, but maybe it's the right decision that needed to be made. Maybe someone with a level hand needed to make it, not someone who's going to react to small instances and jumps in numbers.
Yeah. No, there's plenty of ways to handle that storyline and fuck it up and not fuck it up. And it's just, it all takes is the crowd not to like what you're doing, but people are still pumped about Cody going into Mania. People are still pumped about Sammy, and they're pumped about Roman. Like, I thought they succeeded with their storytelling with that. And that's the thing, like, Mania set up, everybody's like, fuck yeah. Like, nobody's complaining. You know what I mean?
And the best part is, dude, like, Mike Belcaster is going to be in the building for WrestleMania. Like, that makes it even better. Like, they're going to be putting on their best show because you are there. That's what I'm saying.
No, they're hosting WrestleMania just because of me.
So good. But the other thing that popped up here in the newsletter was we obviously saw the debut of Kai and Tai. Didn't have a name, Kai and Tai, yet, but their original name was supposed to be Club Kamikaze. Club starting with a K. Yeah, not great. I think Funaki was supposed to go by the name Show. Dick Togo is going to be just Togo. And then Teo was going to be Men's Teo. And Wally Yamaguchi will end up managing them, which is true. Yamaguchi does come in.
Yeah.
Yamaguchi is famous. Choppy your pee-pee, Val Venus. So we're on the road to choppy your pee-pee very soon. So all roads collide to choppy pee-pee.
That's what the whole build-up. That's why we started Shot of Nostalgia.
This is the culmination. If only it was episode 100. Episode 100. All right, it's time to get our fix. Let's talk about the Monday Night Raw with a young Stephen Acefield in the building, enjoying himself. So let's get our fix.
Get your fix.
Oh, yeah, brother.
All right. We got WWF Monday Night Raw from 4/20. That's right. I said 4/20, 1998. From Long Island, New York, the Nassau Coliseum, the home of the four-time Stanley Cup champion, the New York Islanders. Now they're playing in the beautiful UBS Arena. But so many memories at the Nassau Coliseum. This was my first wrestling show ever. And going through this and watching it from that perspective was awesome. Coliseum was the host of many memorable Raws. Specifically, I was at the Raw. This was not 1998, but the Raw where Big Show tore down the Titantron.
Ooh, that's cool.
That was a very cool one. But yeah, Long Island, one of the hosts of WrestleMania 2, one of the three cities, and they had
Chicago
Piper versus Mr. T.
That's how we're all connected.
Oh, that's right. We're connected. So, and you're going to LA, so it all collides.
So have you rewatched this Raw since?
This was the first time I watched it through, honestly. And I think because I honestly forgot I was there until I went back to my parents' house this weekend. And I was looking through pictures and I was trying to find, because I have all my old ticket stubs of the old
Hell
events, and it's all there like in my old box of stuff at my parents' house. And I sure as hell, I had this ticket for $20.98. And I was like, God damn. And I looked for pictures, couldn't find them to post. I will have them eventually. I have that. I was looking specifically for the X-Pac costume that my mom made, and she's pumped about it because she wants everyone to see it because she did such a good job. And this was before Amazon. This was before anything. We went to fucking Frank's Craft on Art Supplies. She got felt. She cut out the arrows for X-Pac tights. I look goddamn badass. But anyway, that's my rant. Long Island, New York, baby. The home of ACEFIELD Retro and Amazing Pro Wrestling and MJF. MJF was probably, I don't know, what year was MJF born?
What is he? How old is he?
He's like 26, 25.
He's like 20. He's a baby. 2000. It's got to be 2000 something.
So MJF was a glimmer in the Friedman household. He wasn't even an idea yet.
He was a sparkle in his father's eye.
So this is the week after breaking that great streak. This is the 83 weeks. I mean, Eric Bischoff has a podcast named after it. It is a very important moment.
Yeah.
And in this landscape, breaking the streak of Nitro was a huge deal. And watching how WWF follows it up in a go-home show to a pay-per-view, I mean, this is a pretty big test for them. I'm not sure if they knew it in the moment because they were just riding high, but damn, this was a huge test for them.
Yeah, it was a fantastic fucking Raw too, man. I don't know, the storytelling's so rich and depth, and like I think it's because we're looking at it and with hindsight, but I feel like this is some really good shit, pal.
And we mentioned in the newsletter, but this is a perfect time for Raw to catch fire, and for WCW to have their internal problems is not a good thing. And Raw is going to go unopposed for the next 4 weeks with the NBA playoffs starting and all of that, and going unopposed is a huge feather in their cap. And Eric Bischoff may not like it, but this was one of those things that they were down, and this was just further insult to injury because now it's hard to recover when on Monday night at that time slot, they're the only option. And all of a sudden Raw is catching fire and people don't come back. That's the other thing for the fans that were on both sides watching both. Some of them probably never came back to WCW because they were so enamored with what was going on the other side.
Yeah, no, it's a huge gap of time. You're talking 8 hours of television that WWE has on top of WCW at the moment. It's huge. So that's a good way to look at it. Probably a lot of one-siders staying on WWF side after they see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we opened the show recapping the last week drama with Vince McMahon and Dude Love. And we talked about this last week. Obviously, Dude Love is quote unquote a heel. And I think the story, if you follow it, obviously by the end of the year, November-ish, all Mick Foley wants is Vince's love, and he wants to be that corporate champion. And this is the latest attempt. When you watch this live and you see Dude Love and the Vince and Austin thing, he's trying to attack Vince and then he just turns around and attacks Austin. Did that make sense to you, or you were just like, it didn't? You're just making an opponent for Stone Cold at the pay-per-view.
I always thought he was up to shenanigans. Like, what the fuck is Mick Foley doing? He's crazy, because we know who the guy is. We get the persona, but the Dude Love thing was cheeky, but it was also when he got crazy, it was good. You're like, oh damn, he's insane. So like Mick Foley played that very well. And I mean, if you've been following Foley since he was ripping hair out, out of his head and playing with rats in the back, you thought he was crazy as it was. So I was just, oh man, Mick Foley's nuts. He's got split personalities. He's just a psychopath. So like it worked out well. But eventually, like it was like, man, he's up to some shit. So I never looked at it like, yeah, I always thought they were going to partner up and go after. It was great.
There's something super nostalgic about the Dude Love character for some reason to me. It feels like, I know it maybe because it's WWF Warzone on PlayStation. He's like an unlockable character. There's something about Dude Love that seems like it's just like for like, I don't know, like it just seems special. And I don't know. I love this iteration of Mick Foley because it's such a creative side of him. And I know it's not his most popular. You can even tell when he comes out, the fans don't give a shit when the Dude Love music hits. That's the other thing. They don't care. But I always love Dude Love. I love the action figures. I love the shirt. I love everything about it because it taps into something different and shows the range of Mick Foley. Like he could be the deranged guy, like you mentioned with Mankind. He could be Cactus Jack. That's probably his best iteration. But Dude Love's underrated, dude. I I love it. Like the sweet shin music. I love how he diversifies his moveset. I fucking love Dude Love.
Yeah, man. No, I listen. When I was a little kid, I got the T-shirt. You know, I learned how to do the Charleston dance just to mimic him and shit like that. Like it was, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I'm right there with you. It's one of his best characters, but it's also his. He like if you've ever read any of his books or watched his, his special on the network or whatever. He came up with that when he was young, and like that was his high school Mick Foley character when they would play wrestling, and that's so awesome. And the reason why Vince wanted it on TV is because he loved it. He watched the home videos like this is good shit, pal. Like he gave him his dream. It was really cool. I loved him.
Yeah, the famous video of Mick Foley jumping off his house onto a mattress, that was the Dude Love character, and he talks about how he wanted to be this heartbreaker, Shawn Michaels type of character, and he just was, to his own credit, he talks about it, but talks about he wasn't born with the most handsome looks, and he became this rugged character, but it really vibes well with what he's doing in the ring. I love it. Ages really, really well. I love what they're doing with him. The attire, the music, the presentation, it fits where they're going. And I love the main event of Unforgiven. Of course, we'll get there, but I thought it was really good for a short build too.
Absolutely. The inflatable chairs, the disco bus, like it all fits so well, and it's so out of place. And that's what makes it so special.
So before we get to that opening segment with the aforementioned Dude Love, Kevin Kelly's at the cemetery where Undertaker and Kane will brawl, and he's updating us that Kane had been there earlier. So we'll come back to Kevin Kelly. So this is also just further proof that WWF is hitting on all cylinders. They're in different spots. They are hooking you in all throughout the show, and like, stay tuned for this, stay tuned for that. And of course, Dude Love comes out, like I mentioned, his music hits, which is an underrated theme song. And JR informs us that he's getting a title shot this Sunday. So fresh off that week, he's the number one contender, and the fans are booing Dude Love. And it's just because his relation to Stone Cold. Anyone going against Stone Cold becomes public enemy number one. Turn on Austin, you become an uber heel. And that's a credit to, the face of the company is white hot. So anyone going against him is just automatically hated. So I'm sure it's got to be really fun for Foley to work, not only get predominantly booed and consistently booed and be able to play this character as a heel. I'm sure he didn't perceive this Dude Love character being a bad guy. When it first was perceived in 97, tagging with Austin, it comes full circle now, feuding with Austin.
It's cool. I love it, man. It's good. It's like, as we say with the Bloodline, this is rich storytelling. It goes back to 97. It's like you got this bond. It goes back to ECW 95. It's all the pieces are there, man. It's amazing.
So cuts a promo here and just pretty much puts over the character, gets over the fact of why he did it, not really giving a reason why, but he says that he was assaulted by Austin when he's just trying to restore some peace and love in the war zone. He says that he wondered why Austin did what he did, and he has come to the conclusion that after carrying Steve when they were tag team champions, it was the root of all evil, chick. So he blames down on all the girls. He said, Dude laughs and said Austin was followed by girls from Richard Simmons tapes, and they had hair on their lips. And the fans in Nassau know what he's talking about. So rip it on the Long Island ladies. Interesting promo. I mean, whatever. He calls Vince McMahon Uncle Vinny. Like, I love this with Mick Foley. I wonder, I don't know, I'd have to talk to an objective casual fan to see how Dude Love resonates, but I think he's awesome.
Oh, it's great. I love the Uncle Vinny, baby. Like his cadence when he's Dude Love is so like cool. Like,
yes.
But, like in the worst way possible. Like he's like the guy that's like, oh yeah, I could sell you some weed, he's just got that vibe, but it's I love it, man. Like he just carries himself so good as the Dude Love thing. How can you not like it? It's crazy.
Yeah, so they say Austin's not there, but Dude Love will be in action in a tune-up match against Steve Blackman in the main event. So that's our opening segment, a really good opening segment to build and build a story for the pay-per-view, because remember, this is a go-home show for that Unforgiven pay-per-view that's only this Sunday, so they got to make sure they get all their stories in. But that leads us into the first match of the night. Ooh. We get a Long Island street fight. Kama Mustafa versus Farouk. This is nation warfare here. Farouk is officially out of the nation. It's the Rock's nation. Lead us through this match, Mike Belcaster. Tell us what goes on here. And Rocky getting some legitimate fucking heat.
Damn. Yeah, no, the Rocky getting mad heat. But this was a stiff-ass couple minutes of these dudes just kind of beating the piss out of each other, and then I was actually like intrigued as hell by this. I was like, oh shit, some good stuff. But we got some shenanigans with Blackman and Shamrock and Briscoes and Patterson, and it was a lot of story stepping. You know, they're trying to build up a placement match, as it seems, but it looked the actual in-ring shit was great. I love the guys just beating the piss out of each other. I'm always here to see two stiff ass guys get stiff with each other, and that's basically what this was. It was fun as hell. So yeah, Farouk wins. It was good, man.
Yeah, so they went back and forth, as you mentioned, weapons. They got trash cans, empty beer cans, the keg, I should say. They got a whole bunch of stuff in the ring. No DQ, so this match is just very stiff, and it's not about work rate. It's about the story being told. And yeah, Farouk gets the win with a spine buster. Stiff ass match. Two tough guys going at it and beating the hell out of each other and advancing this nation storyline. And yeah. So Rock getting heat even when he's not involved. That just shows how good of a heel he is.
And shoot hammer shots throughout the match. I mean, those were fucking hard looking, man. You can't fake that, but it was good. Yeah, and the Rock's just melting. He's so hot right now. It's the crowd's eating him up. I love it.
All right, so we have DX in the back watching themselves on the monitor, peeing on the motorcycles of DOA a few weeks ago. Billy Gunn tells Triple H they had all the fun, and then Triple H goes to pull out his penis again to pee. It felt weird, and the Outlaws there, Triple H to whip it out in front of the fans. Yeah, it's some lowbrow stuff with DX, and the fans are eating it up. I think they really enjoyed this version of DX, and maybe it doesn't age as well, like when you watch it now, but at the time, you got to remember, like every kid that was that age, it was like really, I don't know, they couldn't do anything wrong. Everything, the dick jokes and the suck it and like all the degenerate juvenile type of pranks, it fit this era of wrestling.
110%, man. It was a little weird to hear the announcers and everybody talk about golden showers on national television, but goddamn, it's 1998 and what a time to be alive.
So we get a Double J promo with Sawyer Brown, which is obviously he's a country star. We're going to see him perform at Unforgiven, which again, who cares here? Who cares now? Double J, not my cup of tea. I made that clear. Hopefully he doesn't win the international title. Well, as we're filming this, we don't know if he won the international title. If he won the international title, Shot nostalgia is over. We're packing up. We're gone. I'm just joking. That's not true. But we get DX coming out, and Triple H is wearing a raincoat. X-Pac has the mic, and he says if Long On is down with DX to make a little noise, X-Pac is over, man. And he tells the crowd to show some Triple H love, and Triple H grabs the mic too, and he says he wants to speak to him. He said last week DOA talked some trash. They got in. Road Dogg does his usual shtick, and him and Gunn talk about being tag team champions. So really, really good build up here. Building up a couple matches. Triple H and Owen. Obviously, X-Pac can't wrestle yet, but making him clear that he is a big part of this faction. And of course, building up New Age Outlaws versus LOD. Yeah. So this is a big, big piece of this. And we do get LOD and Owen following this. But what's your initial thoughts on this DX promo?
It started off rocky, and then it got really good. Well, it started off good. The super soaker under the trench coat, like it popped for it. I was like, it just reminds me of his bone crunching figure because it came with the super soaker, like the SummerSlam one. So I'm just like, I was a little kid enthralled happiness, like just so pumped, man. I was like, oh, this is great. So weird to hear the New Age Outlaws not refer to themselves as the 14-time, like in the like 12-time tag team. Like it was like it still catches me off guard, but good stuff, man. I thought it was fun. Yeah, I'm pumped, man. It leads up to be a good program for all three programs, if you will.
Yeah, so China will be hanging above the ring in a shark cage for the Owen Hart match, which is cool. I love that
Vince
gimmick.
Russo booking, love it.
Yeah, very Jim Cornette. It's funny, Jim Cornette and Vince Russo don't like each other, but that's their right from both of their playbooks. As we mentioned, LOD and Owen Hart came out. Hawk had the mic, and he's pretty much saying that he's going to take them on and take the title. It's not a great promo by Hawk.
Huge pop though.
Huge pop. Yeah, they got a huge pop.
Fucking nuts. Yeah.
So, and then Slaughter comes out, makes the announcement there'll be a 6-man tag match tonight. And Triple H is fine with that. So we're going to get a nice 6-man tag action building up the pay-per-view. Really cool segment as far as building up the match. As we mentioned, the characters intertwined in different feuds. This is how you do build up for a pay-per-view and also later in the night. It was done perfectly, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it was cool, and I like the cheap shots going back and forth from Hunter to Sonny, and it was fun, man. It was just a good segment.
So we have obviously Kevin Kelly's at the cemetery still, and he tells us when Undertaker arrives, all hell could break loose. Just checking in on Kevin Kelly, who's hanging out in the cemetery all night. He goes from this to New Japan Pro Wrestling, being the voice of the English-speaking English commentary at New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he could just be in the cemetery with Undertaker, but you know,
no choppy PP. He's well respected among the men.
All right, we have our next match here. It's Dan Severn taking on Mosh with Thrasher in his corner. Dan Severn has Jim Cornette in his corner. And Dan Severn, I didn't mention this in the newsletter, but I meant to. He is, at this time, the longest reigning NWA champion, holding the championship for over 3 years. I mean, who cares? It's not really being defended. So it's like, oh, yeah, you held the title, but no one was defending it. But yeah, come at him, Roman Reigns. Dan Severn is the travel cheaper.
Yeah, good old Uncle Dan.
So this match is quick, man. 2 minutes and 42 seconds. Dan Severn gets the win here after a body slam and goes for the arm and then makes him tap out immediately. Dan Severn is being as a badass. Whether people will care or not, that remains to be seen. And the answer to your question, if anyone will care, is no. But I think, again, like he would have fit a different era. Like I just think he was in the wrong time at the wrong place.
Yeah, well, it didn't help that they were putting him up against like Thrasher and shit like that. Like nobody gives a shit. Like we see the Godwins beat the Mosh and Thrasher. So what does it matter if Dan Severn does it? He's not going to be a solidified badass at all. And then he put him with Cornette, who's like the nerdy geek of the whole fucking Monday Night Raw roster right now. And like it didn't work. It was not good.
So following this match, we go back to the cemetery with Undertaker showing up, and then he left right away. Some big guy grabs Kevin Kelly and hits him, wondering where they are. And Kevin whines and cries that he does not know. And it may have been Undertaker who grabbed him. We don't know. So they go to commercial break, and Kelly thinks that Undertaker or someone is coming back to the arena. So looks like Kevin Kelly's field work at the cemetery is done. We're going to bring the fight to the arena. They're building up this Inferno match. They're trying to make it feel important. I don't think you really need to build up anymore with Kane and Undertaker. It is what it is. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
interesting.
I didn't hate it. It had like goofy offsite reporter vibes. I enjoyed it. And Kevin Kelly was selling the shit out of it. Like they heard some groaning in there. It's like, okay, like as an adult looking at it, goofy shit. I probably was like, holy shit, the Undertaker's fucking getting murdered.
Very, very true. And we get Luna coming out with Goldust, and they're building up the fact they're going to be having an evening gown match at Unforgiven. So we get a build-up match. Bradshaw taking on the artist formerly known as Goldust with Luna in their corner. It's a DQ finish, so Bradshaw gets the win. But it was a highlight of Goldust. Like I don't think they wanted to commit by having him beat Bradshaw, but they wanted Goldust to kind of look strong going into the pay-per-view.
Get shit again.
So, obviously, whatever. I mean, the match wasn't great. 4 minutes and 48 seconds, a DQ finish where it didn't have to be a DQ finish. Just kind of, it's just annoying to me when you can't commit to a finish here.
Yeah.
But yeah, this match was just there. Two guys that are they're stalwarts of the WWE. Like they've been there for forever. Yeah. Bradshaw goes on to be the WWE champion only a few years from this point. Goldust, legend. But these guys did not click on this night.
No, not at all. But they didn't need to either. It was like just get it done, get it over with. Build up the match. We're good.
Yeah. So Bradshaw looks strong, and at this point, like they don't go anywhere with him. I mean, he's about less than 7 months from being teamed with Farouk, and it's the best thing that ever happens to them.
Yeah,
they go on wind them to be a really good tag team with the Acolytes, with the Ministry, and then being the APA. I mean, that was a godsend for Bradshaw. I think he really needed it. And, I always think the highlight of obviously Bradshaw's career, WrestleMania 21, coming out as the champion against John Cena and losing, but like coming out to the pomp and circumstance of WrestleMania 21. But I also think about WrestleMania 17 as the hometown hero coming out in Houston as the Texas guy. Like one of the opening matches of the show, I think is like the second or third match. He gets one of the biggest pops of the night. Like bar, obviously not Stone Cold, but one of the biggest spots. He's from Texas, and seeing him get the pin in that match. I don't know. It always goes back to it. Gives me chills thinking about Bradshaw returning in front of all those people in the Astrodome.
Hell yeah, dude! I love Bradshaw. I love Bradshaw. APA is one of my favorite gimmicks in the whole like history of wrestling. I think it's awesome when they had the shit door and they were just sitting out back drinking
so
and
good.
playing cards. It's like they got over. You know, it was awesome. But yeah, seeing them here, you don't see it. I told you, I think a couple episodes ago. I had no idea that JBL and Bradshaw were the same guy for a few months. I was like, shut the fuck up. Like it was mind blowing to me. I was like, what? I was like, that's the same dude, like with the long hair, the long black, the guy, hey, damn, you know, like it was, yeah, man, it's fucking wild. It took me a minute, but it was, unbelievably great worker, man.
Well, it just shows like what a good job they did about like transitioning his character. I remember when he was on Fox News, like doing the financial section. This is bizarre. Because originally he was still looking like the Acolyte Bradshaw with the goatee and the long black hair. And I think once he got pushed as the, you know, becoming the JBL character, they cut his hair, made him look like a completely different person.
Oh, it worked. Sold.
Facial hair does a lot for people. So we have Austin coming out. He's pissed off. We thought they had said he's not coming, but of course gets a huge pop coming out. But he cuts the music pretty quickly. And he said last week he wanted to know who his opponent was. And Vince claimed that he did not know. And Austin calls him a liar. Austin puts the belt on the line. He's attacked by his quote, a psychedelic jackass. And he believes it's a conspiracy between Dude and Vince. And he wants a hell yeah. And he gets it. This is a further build here. And they're trying their best to use the screw job as leverage in this storyline, because the guy, the timekeeper, becomes very prominent. He's very prominent in the main event. He's very prominent here. He looks scared as hell. Austin says, "You better not screw me." What do you think about them using this? Not even a year removed from the Bret Hart situation. You think it's in bad taste? Do you think it's like what do you think here?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I liked it. I loved Austin's seriousness to him. It's like, you could go out and find a new job if you want, but you cannot go out and find a new life to live. I really enjoyed it, man. It's Austin being Austin. Like I forgot what his name is. Mark Eaton, I think is the timekeeper's name. But yeah, unbelievable fucking. He was selling it. It was good.
I did enjoy it only because the consistency of the Vince McMahon character. If we go back to the character, he was willing to do it to Bret. That means he's willing to do it to Steve Austin, and they're acknowledging things outside. I do like this because it adds a different dynamic to the pay-per-view, because if you're looking at this from a kayfabe point of view and you believe the Vince McMahon character would do this to Stone Cold, and he did it to Bret Hart, if he really hated Stone Cold and he was desperate to get the title off of him, why not just screw him like you screwed Bret? So they're at least referencing like it's a possibility, but Austin puts a stop to it. I guess that's the logic here.
Yeah, it's good though. I loved it. I thought it was a really, really fun segment.
And this will obviously play a part at the pay-per-view. They show the poor guy on camera scared as hell. Do not ring the bell. So they find a way around it, but of course we'll get to that. But our next match here, we have the Midnight Express, which is of course Bodacious Bart and Bombastic Bob taking on Terry Funk and our boy Too Cold Scorpio. Dan Severn and Jim Cornette are in the corner of the NWA Midnight Express. They are not really focused on this match because they are talking about the hearse arriving, thinking it's Undertaker. But walk us through the match. Of course, we want to pay some respect to Terry Funk and Too Cold Scorpio in this match. They get 7 minutes and 4 seconds. They have a decent showing here.
Dude, you got to witness history. You got to witness the tag team of Terry Funk and Too Cold Scorpio coming out to Cactus Jack's theme song. Fucking
That's
awesome.
Was that dubbed over or no? Did they have a different music?
I have no idea. But I like it. It fits. I'm like, it still throws me off too. I'm like, oh yeah, but I think maybe because Cactus Jack was phased out and Dude Love's here, so they could use the same music, so it makes sense to me. But whatever, it doesn't matter. It was not a bad match, man. This was really fun, and they got Too Cold Scorpio and Terry Funk getting a lot of love here. I was surprised that they pulled off the victory. Really awesome to see, man. I'm mind blown that you were in attendance for this match.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I probably had no. I mean, I was there.
No,
for
this
Stone
is your
Cold
piss
and
break.
The Undertaker. Yeah. That's it. Going back and realizing this, the legends that you saw, to say I saw Terry Funk in person, whether I was 8 years old or 28 years old, doesn't matter. Like seeing him in person, it's a privilege. He's one of the best of all time. And to see him teaming with Scorpio and it's full circle of, I love things like this where we can tie it back to further seasons. Like this is just the perfect tie into ECW 95. Like it really
Yeah.
is. Like, and it's just a beautiful thing. Like we didn't have this intended.
Totally
it's
unexpected.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it was fucking great, but it was a great match. It really was. Like it was fun to watch. Too Cold Scorpio is just as amazing as he still is today. It's wild, man, and it's so cool to see Funk getting put over.
Hell yeah, and he hits the 450, and Dan Severn was trying to come out, but he was walking really slow, so he didn't break up the pin. So he goes after Scorpio. Funk has a chair, so he drives him off. So the intentions were to put Funk and Scorpio over at the expense of Bodacious Bart and Bombastic Bob. And hell yeah, man, anything against this NWA angle, this really is, I wouldn't say it's the last pile of dirt on top of the grave for the NWA angle, but it's getting close, dude. And it's ironic that a hearse pulls up before this match, because this whole angle, NWA was dead on arrival from the beginning, and now it feels like they're finally burying it and saying goodbye.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
So we get the hearses backing up, and all right, so we're not going to get anything with that yet, but they are showing them. This is also beautiful. It shows how immersive this backstage area. They're going from the cemetery to the backstage area, to the locker room, to the ring, back to the back, showing the hearse, showing the parking lot. It's a very organic, thriving environment for the WWF, and that's the beautiful part about it.
No, I absolutely missed it. I thought those little nuances of going backstage, showing off the arenas, it made it feel special, man, because you were like, oh, you felt in the building with them. Like even when you weren't there, like they brought it to you. That was such a captivating way to like enhance your audience. I love it.
We get a quick Val Venus vignette. So just
hello,
more of the stuff, just more build up, and has me thinking about the last guy that they did vignettes with. I go back to Carlito Cool doing that stuff, and this used to put guys over, like having the vignettes and making people familiar with your character before you even get in the ring. I think it's a good mechanism to use that they might need to start bringing back. I think it's important.
Yeah, they don't do it enough. Like it really,
AEW doesn't do it either. Like it's like
nobody.
Introducing guys to show up. Like how beneficial it would be to have AR Fox having one of these packages,
dude. Even the Aussie guys, like if you brought them in and give them 1 week preparation, shoot a video package, like we're I'm Will Ospreay, I'm with the Aus, like we're coming here, and like it would, cool. Show some clips from New Japan, like make it. There you go. Now we care. Get him in the match. Boom. But nobody does that shit anymore.
So you get Sable coming out. She's wearing a blue evening gown, and Michael Cole's waiting for her, and he wants to talk back about the Luna stuff. They're building up this match, the evening gown match, which is just obviously not in good taste about where the women's division is now. But putting it in context in 98, it was built on sex, edginess, beautiful women getting naked. Like, they top this. Like, obviously, I think to Fully Loaded 1998 is when they do the bathing suit contest with Sable wearing that famous bathing suit against Jacqueline.
Yeah.
So they're going to push the limit a little bit more. And of course, you get Miss Kitty at Armageddon 2000 showing the boobs. And then you got Mae Young doing the same. So yeah, this is just par for the course for the Attitude Era.
Mae Young's was sadly not censored on my television screen, but Kitty's was.
Dude, it's crazy too, because like I feel like anytime my mom walked in the room, this was the shit that was on TV. Whether it was Val Venus talking about his dick, or it was girls getting like the bra and panties matches where they're like pulling clothes off each other. That's like, I promise this is wrestling. It's like anytime anyone walks in watching, it's this. But no, whatever.
It's crazy how far we've come, though. Thank God.
No, agreed. I mean, this is a good benchmark for the women's division. Like, Sable's very popular. Let's not forget that. She's one of the most over acts in the company. But it just shows where it would be wild to think at any time anyone in the women's division would be main eventing a pay-per-view, no less WrestleMania. Like, this is where they came from. They're having an evening gown match. Think about the concept of that. Can you imagine Bianca Belair doing something like that? No. Like, that's how far we come, and that's a good thing. So,
very good thing.
I mean,
hell yeah.
We have to just give credit to Sable for what she was able to accomplish, and she's just a product of the time. She couldn't overcome that, but Sable's very important. Like, she's very important to the women's division, and it's weird she doesn't get the love. Like, I don't think she gets the love with WWE. Maybe it's because of all her moments are like laden with like the Playboy, and they trying to move away from that image. I don't know. It's interesting.
I don't know. It doesn't make sense because she did wrestle. It wasn't like she didn't. And didn't she come back a little bit like
in 2003 when she was like with Vince. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just but then like I don't know what happened. Like why not put her in the Hall of Fame? Do something cool with it and make it special. I don't know. Yeah,
there's got to be something to the story. Like I haven't, done my research that deep on the Sable thing. I know she's married to Brock Lesnar, so there's got to be some
she keeps
connection.
the Beast happy. I mean, she tamed the Beast. She deserves to go in the Hall of Fame for that reason.
Yeah, I remember the story came out and we like ordered it on Wrestling Tonight, just like, oh, Mark Marrow's cool with Brock Lesnar. It's like, yeah, no shit, you're cool with him. Like, I wish them the best. Like, yeah, me too.
You better fucking wish me the best.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Mark Marrow versus Brock Lesnar. All right, we have this is not our main event, but it should have been the main event. We have DX, Billy Gunn, the Road Dogg, and Triple H with China and X-Pac in their corner. They're all out. Proud, man. And a lot of personalities too against LOD 2000 and Owen Hart. So it's Road Warrior Animal, Road Warrior Hawk, and Owen Hart with Sonny in their corner.
It's insane.
6-man tag match. Before the match, I want to make it clear, JR does say that the pay-per-view is going to be in Greensboro, and he does say under his breath, Flair country. So are they trying to hint that Flair's coming? They know that there's issues going on. Is this just like similar to the hotline, what they were doing back in the day? Like, oh yeah, maybe Hogan's going to come. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, there's no harm in following teasing it. It's not like it was a big deal, but it's just a little drop. And probably 90% of the people heard or weren't paying attention when he said it.
True.
So who knows?
All right. So lead us through this match, man. I mean, we had DX out there. This is all of them. This is them and their peak, man. This is every personality. You got China.
No, this is wild. Like
good shit.
Reading the names off of this match is just insane. Like you got so many legends. This is mind boggling. Like the read on paper and seeing like it's like Owen Hart, Road Warrior Animal, Road Warrior Hawk. Okay, that's insane on its own. Then you throw in the New Age Outlaws, Triple H, China, who's this fucking pathmaker herself, and X-Pac. This is insane, but good action, good story. Again, this was a good stepping stone towards the rest of the storytelling, but it was still really fun. A little like clunky at times, but I enjoyed it, man. I really did. I thought they're really selling the Outlaws versus the LOD 2000. I love LOD 2000. They're fucking over as shit. It's just insane, man. And then there's Sonny. Yeah.
I mean, I think you said it. It was a little bit messy, and it's just because it's a 6-man match. They go 11 minutes and 24 seconds, which is out of their comfort zone as far as matches go. But everyone got their shit in. DX gets the win here.
It was fun.
And Road Dogg hitting the pile driver after they hit him with a chair, like DX shenanigans. But you could just tell everything everyone does in this match is quite evident that everyone is a meaningful character on the screen. You can tell that Long Island and a young Ace is reacting strong to everybody. And I was so into DX at this time. Like they were everything. Like the New Age Outlaws. And later in 98, man, X-Pac is my guy. Like one of my favorite wrestlers of all time is because I don't know. There's something about X-Pac, the character and the way he worked, like all the feuds. I loved his European title reign. I can't wait to get into that as we get into that. But yeah, this match was good. I thought it was a really nice showcase for DX, and they really built up towards the pay-per-view of having this Owen Hart and Triple H feud is never ending, but the LOD and New Age Outlaws feels fresh.
Yeah, no, it was really good, and it was fun to see. Like I don't know, just the way they do storytelling in 98 is just absurdly great. Like this could have been. I mean, this could be the main event of Dynamite this week. Yeah. And, but what are we going to take away from it? But here, like, you're like, fuck, I got to order this show. Like everything madness is happening. And you're like, you're just rolling with it. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like you said, it's the dynamic characters making you care. And I think that's what's really missing from not just AEW, but WWE altogether. There's at the top of the card, you care about a lot of the characters, but this is a lot of it's mid card. It's the tag team titles and the European Championship. This is at the end of the day, it feels like the main event stuff, but it's the mid card. Like this is not for the world title. This is mid card stuff that feels important. And I think that's important to make fans feel like your mid card shit is important. And maybe the titles were not as respected in the Attitude Era, but they sure as hell made them feel important when they were involved in stories.
Yeah, that's the thing too. I think the titles were very important. Just they were being used differently. It was different
Yeah.
ways to paint with the paintbrush, you know. So I always thought I fucking thought the titles were important. When somebody won the IC title, I was like, that's my fucking guy, you know. Like you always, because you thought they were going to become the next big thing, and of course, but it never changed here. I loved when when my team had the tag titles, when the New Age Outlaws had the tag titles. I was fucking stoked, man. Hardy Boys, like it always, all that shit it still felt important, but it wasn't. Maybe it was just different, you know. I don't know.
No, I agree with you completely. I think the IC title is the perfect example. That the IC title was as much criticism as the booking gets in the Attitude Era. The IC title never really felt more important to me. And again, it's my fandom watching guys because they use it as a launching point. Stone Cold, The Rock, those guys won the IC title and they got expedited to the main event shortly. Like this year, we're going to see the ladder match at SummerSlam between The Rock and Triple H for the IC title.
Huge.
And then we're going to have The Rock a few months later, actually 2 months later, winning the title in the tournament, and Triple H only a year later becoming the guy. So like the IC title was a prediction and a spoiler for who's the next guy that they're doing that. And maybe they're getting back to that. Maybe Gunther is going to be the next guy, but the IC title was a very, very important thing that they used to advance storytelling and also main eventers.
Yeah, no, 100%, man.
So we bring out Kane and Paul Bearer and they have a casket and wheel it off. So we have Paul Bearer saying that this evening, for one reason, he's here for the Undertaker. They know Undertaker's parents died in a fire that was set by him and that Undertaker could not attend the funeral. So he dug up his parents so Undertaker can have a funeral for them. What the hell? So
this
he brought
primetime shit right here.
So Undertaker tells Paul, obviously Paul Bearer comes out, that he does not want to light it, and Paul does so anyway. Undertaker charges up, chokeslam by Kane into his mother's casket. The other one's on fire. It
was a good fight.
Were we supposed to believe that this was actually his parents being dug up, or like was it mind games? Like, what are we supposed to believe here as far as story goes?
Did you believe it? Do you remember this as a kid? Like, do you remember watching this as a kid?
I remember being
like,
scared
mortified?
as hell. Like,
yeah,
no, mortified. Mortified.
Like...
Yeah, the whole story. I thought this was like legit stuff. Like it bothered me as a kid, obviously. But yeah,
I think I thought it was storytelling. I was like, "There's no fun," but I don't know. I can't remember. I may think I was fucking hook line. Like I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, my brother's like, "I'll fucking listen to Marilyn Manson." Like this dude's fucking eating his parents and like,
you know what's wild though? Like there's wrestling sandwich in the show, and you have a segment where Paul Bearer digs up Undertaker's parents and puts them in a casket, and they go on with the main event. Like we're here at Michael Cole and JR now. Like,
and it started with fucking golden showers, and we came to digging up corpses and burning them. It's great.
I honestly forgot this happened. I mean, I remember the fire and the build, and like they were there. I don't remember the nuance of like saying that Taker's parents
well, you're
were
kid,
in the casket.
You probably weren't paying attention to it.
No, it was not the character.
Like, yeah, but no, still, this is like some really deep, dark shit, and it's fucking. It's got a weird place here. I don't know. I like it. I'm not against it. Like it tells a good story between the Undertaker and shit. But this is fucking wild, man. Some Rob Zombie shit going on.
So they pull to Michael Cole at the desk, and he says, Kane and Paul Bearer fled, and the remains of Undertaker's parents have been sent to a secure area. And then Cole said, "I'll never forget the look on Undertaker's face." So I guess they're trying to really sell it that it's real. Like, yeah. I mean, when you talk about Undertaker and Kane, this doesn't get talked about. I don't think. I think the feud, the feud extends well past this, and it's just amazing. Like this is some Bray Wyatt shit. Let's just say, put it on Front Street. It's like this is Bray Wyatt, goofy, pitch black Mountain Dew stuff.
Bray Wyatt shit, though. Yeah, I like it. I think it tells you like a really fucking weird story. It gave the characters this crazy backstory, but letting his parents on, like, I don't know, like it is some dark shit.
If you really dissect this whole thing, it is. I mean, it's really, and it goes. They top themselves too, because it keeps going more and more. With I go back to Big Boss Man driving the hearse with Big Show's dad on a casket carrying. Like they don't give a shit. So
no, that was fucking some hard shit with different.
And then the dog, years. We got Pepper being eaten in the kennel, the kennel match. Like they know no limits. Vince Russo. We haven't used the drop. Like I have to.
You want
Do it.
fluff? Go eat a marshmallow.
It's great. It's crazy
right.
shit, though. Absolutely crazy.
All right, let's go with our main event here. We got Steve Blackman taking on Dude Love. Carry us through Belcaster. There was no.
Oh, have
corpses.
mercy!
It's just Dude Love and Steve Blackman.
Dude, what the fuck? Like, I love Mick Foley. I eventually do fall in love with Steve Blackman. This was shits. It was just a ploy to get more storytelling, like we all love here in 1998. It is. Listen, the Vince Stone Cold shit. I'm so here for it. But they pull the same shit like they did at the, they're pulling Dude Love and Stone Cold like more into the space. Vince is pulling away from Dude Love. I don't know. It's crazy, but it was, dude, seeing the Briscoes, or not Briscoes, but Patterson and Briscoe get hit with the stunner.
Yeah.
Patterson fucking sold the hell out of it. Briscoe, I think, is still feeling that one because he got hit hard. And it was. I love seeing the stooge shit. It was great. I think this was good. A good momentum going into the pay-per-view. Like I'm stoked for Unforgiven. Like, let's fucking go.
Yeah, so they do the screw job finish here where Dude's whipped into the ropes. He goes from ab stretch, but then awkwardly reverse, and then the bell rings. And Steve and the ref are baffled, but Dude dances, and Vince states that it's obvious that what has happened. Dude loves going to the pay-per-view with some momentum. Steve is pissed. He beats up the poor Bell Dude, and Vince's comment states that this was uncalled for and wants to help him. And here comes Austin. So Blackman beats up the Bell Dude. Austin comes out, runs in and clotheslines Dude Love, and assaults Vince McMahon. Vince gets tossed around, man. Some of this stuff, the bumps that Vince take, craziness. You mentioned the stunner. They are really trying to build up this potential of a screw job here. But it's just par for the course. Like, you're building, it's not really about Dude Love and Stone Cold. It's about Vince McMahon and Stone Cold. That's where the money is. And I think they recognize that from early on. That's where the feud is.
No, absolutely. It's crazy because, like, I don't know if it's because we've seen so much through our time, but like seeing Vince bump, like, it doesn't even faze me. I'm like, oh, okay, just take, like, yeah, but you're like, he's getting thrown around. I was like, well, yeah, he did get his ass but we've seen him do a lot of crazy shit.
But just seeing him be pulled from the announce desk and thrown, like, he gets tossed like he's like, like
a ragdoll.
He's like Sammy Guevara. Like he has no shits, man. He just bumps. But let's get into Unforgiven from April 26, 1998. The Greensboro Coliseum from Greensboro, North Carolina. The attendance is 21,427 at the time. This is a Greensboro wrestling record. Goddamn, man. So you think about the history of wrestling in North Carolina. For WWF to hold that record at this time, again, I don't know what the exact record is now, but they definitely surpassed what WCW was doing there. Has to sting a little bit. This is Flair country. This is WCW. This is Southern wrestling. And Vince McMahon coming in with his New York boys. 21,427 people are rabid. They are desperate to see this product.
Yeah, but it also goes to show how hot wrestling was, because he got 21,000 of WCW's territory in a building, hot, ready to fucking roll, and they were like lava. The crowd was on fire for this Unforgiven, man.
Yeah, so this opening match was Farouk, Ken Shamrock, and Steve Blackman taking on D'Lo Brown, Mark Henry, and The Rock. Match goes 13 minutes and 7 seconds. This is the debut of the new Intercontinental Championship at the show, which was the first time we've seen this new belt. It replaced the very popular IC title belt that has been in use for, at this point, 12 and a half years. And urban legend at this point has it that the belt maker, Reggie Park, had the rights to the shape of the belt, and WWF didn't want to pay for it anymore. So in any event, one of the most popular belts in wrestling history was officially retired. And the belt that Rock has in this match is the IC title belt that they used for a very long period of time until Cody Rhodes brought back the old design. Yeah. And now that they replaced it since with this other design. What do you think about this? I mean, the IC title, I have a very keen eye for the championship belt. And the first thing I noticed was the new belt. And I went to the old Google machine and I found out the history of this guy, Reggie Parks. That's the reason why they got rid of that popular design. Interesting.
Well, I'm very, very familiar with Reggie Parks and his stinginess with fucking titles, because it screws up my action figure collection very, very much so. But he's been more lenient lately, so it's okay. But I'm very fond of this new IC title. This is my IC title. I was talking to Tom about it today. I hate that one. It's ugly. It's one of my favorites, and it was so awesome. This is a staple of my childhood, man. And as you said, it goes a very, very, very long way down the line from until Cody removes it, man. It's insane. But I was here for the move. I liked it. I was enjoying new titles as a kid too. Fuck yeah, give me more new titles, man.
Yeah, the only championships that don't get really replaced is those tag belts, which last so long, dude. The original tag belts, it's funny, like they are still, I think 03 is when they get replaced finally. Regal and Lance Storm, I think get new titles.
Yeah.
Or like Kane and RVD, like that era. But those same titles that the Dudleys held are the same titles that the Hart Foundation and the Demolition held, and all those teams that held those titles. It's just crazy. Like, I love watching the footage of seeing those old tag belts because they have so much lineage, and you can't do that with the world title. Like when you watch Hogan's belt at WrestleMania 3, like clearly it needs to be updated, but there's something cool about the consistency on the product. And I wish it could have been the same, because it's something to be said about the same. When you go back and watch the Stanley Cup, people are holding the same trophy. It's interesting. Like, I don't know. It's just one of those things that consistency is key.
You feel the prestigiousness of it, you know. I remember those are our tag titles, you know. That's how I look at that, and I remember fondly of watching them go around, and the Dudley, as you say, Dudleys. I picture Bubba holding them up, and it kind of sucks when they switch up the titles so much. Like now, like they're flashy looking and shit, but they do lose that.
Tag titles suck, man.
It's so bad.
I think everyone believes there's shit. I think the worst one became from this iteration the fucking pennies that they had.
No, the pennies were terrible.
And Cody, those suck.
And then you make them silver, and it doesn't look any better. And it fucked up when they started to color brand everything. Like, oh, we need a red title and a blue title. Like, no, we don't. We need a black strap. Some fucking solid looking plates. That's
So the one thing I want to say about this match is, I mean, it was a decent opener. The crowd was hot, though. Like you said, though, they were in the building. They want to just see the product. But one that bothered me, and I noticed because I am one of my favorite guys in this match, Ken Shamrock. He's probably one of the best workers in the match. He barely got in. I think it's because he was hurt as well. Keeping Shamrock out of the match, as far as like isolating a guy, I think he should have been the guy who should have carried the match. The ending is definitely a shocker with Farouk getting a clean pin on The Rock. Like, that had me shocked seeing The Rock get pinned. Obviously, he has momentum behind him. He is the IC champ. He's man. And when in retrospect, I mean, I guess it was to set up like the IC title match at the next month's pay-per-view, but really weird to see The Rock eat a pinfall from Farouk.
Oh, absolutely.
Crazy.
But I mean, that goes to show you how hot The Rock was, because I mean, this could have killed The Rock. And fucking not at all. It just made him better and bigger, and I thought it was cool. It's still watching them develop in the ring. Like, Rock goes for that people's elbow, and he doesn't take the elbow pad off. He just goes, you know, he's just it's insane to see how it all evolved, man. But so fucking good. It's like I'm loving these matches, not for the quality, but for like the just seeing everything come up like to fruition. Like, we're kind of mapping out like where everything starts. It's awesome, man. Love it.
All I'm saying is Ken Shamrock should have been in the match, and D'Lo Brown or Mark Henry eat a fucking pin. Let's go. Come on. What are we doing? Like, Mark Henry can't eat a pin. It's baby Mark Henry. It's baby Henry. Why can't he
Mark Henry? Yeah.
Come on. All right, we get Steve Austin coming out. He reminds the timekeeper there will be no screw jobs in his title match, or he better call an ambulance. So Austin making it clear. And then we lead right into our match here with Owen Hart defending getting a shot at the European Championship against Triple H, the defending champion, with China hanging above the cage. I'll let you get into this match in a second, but obviously there's a lot to go on with this feud and the history of Triple H as the leader of DX. I'm not sure if this is the moment to circle as making him the de facto leader. I think we could circle that promo following WrestleMania 14. Having X-Pac involved, like he gets involved in this match, which we'll talk about in 1 second. It's very, very important. And I think it actually adds a dynamic that it's not just about China anymore. It's about all these different guys, and China hanging above. It's a cool visual. So I'll let you get into the match.
I thought it was, I think the shark cage thing is just fucking wild and wonky. It's hard to pay attention to the match when you get the shenanigans going on, but you know, China eventually bends that bar, and like it was some work shit. It was hilarious. Like I'm like cracking up at it as I watched it though. But in ring shit, awesome. Really, really cool. China eventually he starts hanging off the thing, like, and she's fucking way up there. It's not like she's like 10 feet up. She's like a good 15 feet off the floor. It looked crazy. She's distracting Owen. But it wasn't. I thought it wasn't the best match to end a good 5-month fucking feud. It was all right, but DX is hot as shit. Nobody gives a fuck. X-Pac getting involved was awesome. But yeah, I don't know. Owen's been lackluster for me since we started doing this, and it's a shame.
It is. Yeah, I agree with you. This is the last pay-per-view that DX will be a heel until late 99 when they do the DX 2000 thing with the McMahon Helmsley era stuff. But they are white hot baby faces very, very soon. And I also noticed too throughout this match, like picking up on JR's commentary, he's calling Triple H Helmsley the whole match. And I think that's eventually going to fade over time. And I'm curious to see when he just becomes straight up Triple H. But
yeah, he's still rocking the robe, He's
exactly. He's not the Triple H we know only a few short months later with the full attitude. One of his best attires, I keep referencing some, but those red tights with the yellow fucking pops. Like there's something about that gear. And one of his figures too, that first figure he had in DX from, I think it's the fully loaded set from Jack Pacific, but the very glossy hologram tights. I think they're purple and blue.
Oh, the metallic purple. That's the
metallic. Yeah,
that's fucking love it. I
love it.
My favorite.
And he has
one
the
of my favorite
Braden's
bone
hair
crunchers.
too.
Yeah.
Because comparing that to his first one with the wearing his Greenwich Snob tights, horrible figure. He's so thin.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, this was a fun match. I mean, you mentioned the stuff like, I don't know. I think there's a lot of like obviously nostalgia. We're watching this match because of the characters. I think Owen fighting DX valiantly over the past 5 months. Like that's the story they're telling, but he can't overcome the numbers game. And you thought he would eventually get his win back. He never really does. Like, I don't, like as you mentioned, and this may just be because he is a heart, and they're just like he's not being screwed. That he's being showcased. He's in a title match. He's being involved in a major program. They're not embarrassing him. Not until next year with the Blue Blazer stuff. But I don't know. I mean, I'm interested to see him joining the nation soon. Like, I'm thinking it'll be a nice fresh start for him because this Black Heart stuff they're doing is, I don't know. It doesn't feel as interesting as I thought it would be. And that sucks.
Yeah. I mean, and we didn't spend a lot of time with it. So, it's not like, but it's not kicking to where it should be. I remember Owen so much better. Maybe that's in the next couple months coming up when he does join the nation, because he does some great fucking shit with that. But yeah, it was all right.
So this essentially ends Owen's final face run. Like I don't think we ever get him as a face again, unless I'm wrong. Someone correct me, but he's a heel effectively from this point until his untimely death in '99. I think because then he teams with Jared and he's in the nation. Ugh. So no more face Owen Hart. So. Leads us into our next match. We're not going to get too far into it, but it's the New Midnight Express defending their NWA Tag Team Championship against the Rock and Roll Express. Bombastic Bob pinned Robert Gibson with a bulldog at 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Really bland, really boring, doesn't fit. Rock and Roll Express, legends. Midnight Express, not so much, but, at this point, the match, Vince is about 10 years too late in getting Rock and Roll on the card. So I do love Rock and Roll Express. I think they are the recipient of some untimely momentum with this NWA stuff. And it's just bad. It sticks out like a sore thumb on this card in a really bad way.
Yeah, they had a better run in GCW last year than they did here in WWF. But it was interesting. I don't got much to add to it. I think there's too much wishy-washy shit going on with the NWA stuff. Totally dead storyline. No heart, no love. I'm like, fuck it.
It's quite clear, like, it's just not 1986 anymore. It's not 1987. Like, it's 1998, and these guys feel like they are working in a time capsule. They come out and they do their thing, and it doesn't fit on the fucking card. Like, that's why it flops so hard. And the fact that, I just was not a big fan of it.
I'm right there with you.
Speaking of what I'm not a big fan of, we're going to go through this match pretty quickly. Luna Vachon taking on Sable in an evening gown match. Match only goes 2 minutes and 35 seconds. And obviously the evening gown got ripped off of Sable. This was the first ever recorded evening gown match in WWF history. It's not the last, unfortunately. It's horrible. I mean, Mark Morrow interfered. you know, Sable is very well endowed in 1998. They're just absolutely enormous. Boobage. So yeah, that's, you know,
WWF's
obviously
milking it, literally.
yeah, so that's pretty much it. And I think at this point, after this feud, Luna would disappear for a few months before reappearing with the Oddities. So she's gone from this. She'll be back with the Oddities in a few short months. This is obviously the first of the match kind, but they bring this to Braun Pennies. This is very this is how they paid off women's feuds for a while, and that's a horrible commentary on how they booked their women roster. So
this was the female steel cage match. Really was. This is fucking terrible.
Oh man. All right, well, let's get to a match that was well built, but let's see if you feel like it delivered. LOD earned their title shot by winning the tag team title battle royal at WrestleMania 14. This is 1 year anniversary of their first pay-per-view title shot of the current run as they battled British Bulldog and Owen Hart, the Revenge of the Taker. 19 obviously are taking on the New Age Outlaws. So this is for the WWF Tag Team Championships, as we talked so glowingly about.
Yeah, listen, you can see where they feel with Legion of Doom. So it's just, you know, they're obviously the Outlaws are the guys, so they're keeping it going, which I thought was a shame, but I fucking popped so damn hard when they hit fucking their finish on the ref. I was like, what the fuck is going on? It was great, man. I was cracking up. But yeah, man, Outlaws win. Wasn't a great match. There was a lot of time too, which I was surprised about, but sadly it wasn't fucking what it could have been. I don't know if that's because like they don't work well together, but the Legion of Doom's not showing up, man.
So this is also, just as far as aesthetics go, this is the debut of Mr. Ass on Billy Gunn's tights. First time we ever saw it. Very cool looking cool gear that he's finally getting into.
Yeah, they got their vibe.
Yeah, they're really falling into that New Age Outlaws vibe. Rocking metallic. It feels very akin to what we remember them as. They're no longer just wearing the South Park shirts. They feel like the New Age Outlaws that we know and love.
Hell yeah.
And to bring it back to tag team packs for Jack Pacific. Like, I think of that Road Dogg's likeness was horrible, but Billy Gunn, I remember, looked great. Like, I know the face wasn't great, but I love that figure.
Yeah, no, those were again, I'm a sucker for these, but those are my tag team.
So it feels like Vince is refusing to like commit to, like, they're involved in a feud. They don't want to put the titles on LOD, but they want to protect them. So, but it comes off as weak. Like,
yeah,
you know, the 12 minutes and 13 seconds. Road Dogg pinned Animal with a back suplex and both shoulders were down, but referee Jack Doan counted Animal's shoulders and not Road Dogg's. This is their last title shot in their run. I mean, they're going to stick around, but we're going to see some really bizarre shit with Hawk and Animal for a little bit here.
Yeah.
They were just, honestly, it would have went a long way to put them in a meaningful feud, not for the titles. If you're not willing to have them lose, don't put them with the champs. Like, I don't like, I get
100%.
The money the money's in the match, but like, if you're not going to have them go back and forth and not commit to them losing, it feels hollow. Cause this is
especially
3 pay-per-view title matches in 5 months, and all of them had cheap endings. Like, that's what I feel like.
No, and like they put, I thought LOD 2000 repackaging was done like big. They made it a big deal, but then they didn't at the same time, and that's why it flopped. I don't know. It's shitty. You should have gave him one good title run, man. I would have loved it.
And it also doesn't help anybody. Like, I agree keeping the titles on the Outlaws, but you're booking them look weak too. I understand they're heels, but you got to commit. It's either like shit or get off the pot at this point. It's either you're going to go all in on LOD, go all in on the Outlaws, and have LOD put over the Outlaws. Someone has to win. But when you do 3 matches in 5 months and it all comes off as cheap finishes, there's no culmination. No one really believes you're going to have a match. You know, like,
yeah.
You know, the Outlaws are coming off so hot from that dumpster match and then the cage match. To have this program, like, this could have been the coronation of the Outlaws. And I'm not saying it affected them in a negative way, because it didn't. They were undeniable at this point. But I think it could have went a really long way to have them just pin LOD. I think that at this point they're legends. Like, have it be clean. Let's just do something clean.
No, that's you shouldn't have shit finishes like that. Like, there's no storytelling behind it. Just make it meaningful. Especially, yeah, I totally agree with that too.
So before we get to the Inferno match, which I'll let you cover because it was a beautiful spectacle, we had Jeff Jarrett and Sawyer Brown doing a mini concert Jeff Jarrett's clearly lip syncing, and Steve Blackman jumps on stage after one song, Tennessee Lee, then whacks Blackman with the guitar. Jarrett hits the figure 4. Everyone snoozes. Nobody cares. Jeff Jarrett is awful. All right. Next match here.
Greensboro care. All right.
They're in Greensboro, and even Greensboro didn't pop. Let me be honest with you. They didn't give a shit.
How could you? It's piss break time. Yeah, man. This is like a fucking legendary match. They've only had like 2 Inferno matches in history, right? Am I wrong there? I know they did a second
more
one.
Than one. This is definitely the first one.
They
definitely had another one where I think Taker wrestled Austin, if I'm not mistaken, but this is the first one.
I forgot all about that one. But so there's 3 of them because there was one after that too, like in the more modern day thing, but it was shitty. We won't talk about that one. But anyway, this is the beginning of it, man. What a spectacle! How do you watch that and not love that? I thought that was like one of the most brilliant. Even with the camera angles where they get like the waves from the flames, like you felt the heat watching it on TV. I couldn't imagine how crazy it must be to be in that arena for it. But good storytelling between Taker, Kane. I like that they got out of the ring eventually and started brawling a little bit. That was good. You know, they got up by the band and shit like that, and they're brawling by the stage. But yeah, Kane lights his arm on fire, and it sadly ends the match. But like, there's some really intense visuals with the fire, and you know, you're watching it. You're like, holy fuck, somebody's gonna get burned. Like it was really intense. Really, I don't know. It was captivating as fuck.
Yeah, so I mean, there's some moments in this match. The match itself wasn't the best match. I think their WrestleMania bout was better, and they were obviously surrounded by fire. But like you said, there was a huge, memorable moment here, and it's the dive, but Taker over the flames as they raise up. I mean, legendary stuff. Obviously, you have to gimmick this, and Taker's the king of the gimmick match, being a part of the first Hell in a Cell, the first casket match, first. I mean, a lot of different matches.
You name it. He's in
Buried
everything.
Alive. Taker is wearing no sleeves, so you know at this point. I mean, as a fan, you don't know watching this live. You don't know if Taker's going to be burned or not because it's WWF 1998. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. But they pull off the gimmicky, the flame arm, the flame obviously resistant fabric that Kane gets knocked out. He's outside the ring. He goes under the ring, and it looks like someone's probably under there putting up that red sleeve gets covered, and it doesn't. It's still very visually jarring to see him being lit on fire. But I remember watching as a kid, I did not see this happen. And I didn't notice the arm was like gimmicked, you know what I mean? But it's so obvious now watching how gimmick it is. And
of course, yeah.
But I think the visual of the flame surrounding the ring is very, very impressive. And even to the point you mentioned on the ramp, you could see there's a, like a sign, like an advertisement sign that's like shiny and has a reflection. You could see the flames flickering in that. And you would think this wouldn't look good, but it looks amazing for 98. And like for visual sake, like this really ages well. Quality of the match, like not great, but again, it's about the storytelling, and I'm here for moments. Create a moment.
I mean, what the hell are you going to do when you're wrestling in a ring? You know how hot that had been for them, and like just the intenseness of being scared out of your fucking mind to light yourself on fire because you're surrounded by it. But my goodness, this is like every 10-year-old's dream, like fire and fighting and fucking let's fucking go. It was great. I loved it.
So we move to our main event here, and it is for the WWF Championship. It's the new champion. This is his first title defense, Steve Austin, defending against Dude Love. And this match is, like we mentioned, the first title defense for Stone Cold. I mean, he's the thoroughbred, the workhorse of the WWF. And it's against Vince McMahon's stooge, Dude Love. Austin's pop, like we mentioned, Dude Love's entrance gets no reaction, or this like comparatively gets no reaction. But Austin's pops, dude, are just off the charts. You can see him. It's like it's a wave of momentum. When he goes to one turnbuckle, puts his hands up, the whole crowd reacts to standing up, standing room only type of shit. No one, in my opinion, not Hogan, not Shawn Michaels, not Ultimate Warrior, not Roman Reigns will ever get the ear splitting, the absolute maniac reaction that Steve Austin gets on a consistent basis, no matter what he's doing. This is cements it, man. Steve Austin is the GOAT. Like, as far as reaction go, and there's a reason he's on Mount Rushmore of the wrestling history lineage. Like this guy takes wrestling to a new height, and you give the guys their credit, but I think Steve Austin will never be topped. It's so obvious how electric he is, and he's one of one. It could not have been anybody else.
No, and watching these, like I'm thinking about when you're in the arena for it, when you are that age and you hear that glass shatter and how the air was sucked out of the room because everybody was losing their shit. It's just so huge, man. Like Austin was right time, right place, perfect storm. You can't copy it. And this match was fantastic. I loved it. I love watching Dude Love. We like a newfound person again because I love watching Dude Love matches. But this is such like he carries himself so damn good. We put it over on the Raw, but this is just as fucking. It's just as good. Foley and Austin have great back and forth. The Vince, the visuals, it was just done really well. And fucking we get Dude Love winning, but Austin wins the title. But I thought this was done so perfect. Austin and Vince, the chair shot afterwards. Where
oh my god, he crushed Vince's head. Crushed.
Perfect though too. Like the way. Dude Love moves out of the way and like they set it up perfect and like did Austin hit Vince on purpose? And we're like, fuck yeah, he did.
This is just Austin main eventing, carrying a whole show, and this was a awesome brawl. Like this was an absolute epic brawl that is a credit to both guys working. You mentioned the chemistry that Foley and Austin have. It's quite clear that these guys are going to be a focal point for not just this year but for the next year. Going forward. And if Austin didn't get hurt, like who knows what Austin could have done in the year 2000 throughout that. We were robbed of Stone Cold. Like it's really nice to see him getting all the love in this match. And it's funny because it's not about anybody else but Austin and Vince, but they put so many different players coming in and out. The story remains fresh. Like it's one of the best stories in wrestling history, really.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. It's beautiful.
All right, let's get into the wrestling after this show. Monday Night Raw from 4/27/1988 from Hampton Coliseum from Hampton, Virginia. And this is an important show too. And this was a huge moment. And I feel like we're just going to be saying this for every single week. And this is right in the mix of Nitro being preempted, which means that they're going to continue to make a huge dent into Nitro's armor. Like at this point, Raw is on a roll. They are driving towards putting WCW in the ground. Still 3 years removed from that, but they're not that far. 3 years is not that long. But yeah, we open up with Triple H and DX dressed in camouflage. Billy Gunn has bazooka. Triple H tells them they have a mission tonight, and you know the rest. They are going to where WCW is and finish back at Hampton Roads, and they get in a Jeep and drive off. This is the famous moment that gets misinterpreted over time. Everyone's like, oh, they drove to WCW with a tank. To be honest, it was a borderline a golf cart. Like, so it's still very memorable. This is one of the things that I pull from as a kid. I remember this is very, very vividly.
Yeah. I mean, this is huge. This is WWE's biggest knockback at WCW, I think. And it is awesome. So pumped for it, man.
So our opening match here. So Ken Shamrock and Owen Hart versus The Nation, which is Mark Henry and The Rock with D'Lo Brown and Kama in their corner. It ended in a no contest, 1 minute and 45 seconds. This goes awry pretty quick. Blackman runs down. Shamrock is stuck in the sharpshooter. Farouk runs down, met by The Rock, and he's too dismantled. All three are getting demolished. And then Owen finally breaks the hold and salutes the crowd. Then he goes back and bites Shamrock over and over. So I guess they're just trying to figure out maybe he's just sick of DX attacking him. Now he turned heel. So this is Owen's heel turn, which is weird because he's like attacking Shamrock. But yeah, so this is the opening segment. Match was 1 minute and 45 seconds. So what'd you think of this match?
Yeah, that's like I feel like they're still lost with Owen. Like this, I mean, they're having him bite the shit out of Shamrock and them feuding now. Like there's a weird to come off of him main eventing the last pay-per-view with Triple H, and then he's opening the show now. He's biting people. It's like not a good sign, I guess. But
so following this, we have Dude Love coming out. He comes out with some chicks aside, and he just does the whole gimmick. And he says, I can understand why the fans love Austin and why he used to be the main man. That's because Austin's a tough cookie. He said, Dude Love took him to the limit, chewed him up, and spit him out. And then he said after the hanging and bang was over, Dude was put on a performance of a lifetime. So he took the ladies, went up to his room, and they looked at him longingly and said, Dude looked at them and told them that he just needed to be held. Dude said he had to deprive the ladies of a night of passion, and he deprived of the gold because of Austin's antics. He goes over the match and Vince's involvement. He sees three choices. We find the ex-champ and find Shawn Michaels, and there were a lot of boos for Shawn Michaels, which was interesting. So this was another to keep Dude Love relevant here. He gets a hell yeah from the crowd. They don't really respond, and that was pretty much it. So Dude Love they're going to stick with Dude Love for a little bit, just for a short period of time.
I loved it. I thought it was great. Foley's beautiful.
So we get DX at the Norfolk, Virginia, and Triple H asks the crowd if they think Eric Bischoff sucks, and they respond, if WCW sucks. They take a shot with the howitzer and fire the first shot at WCW. The sign states that it's free to get in, and they're walking amongst the crowd, waiting to get into the arena. And Triple H wants to know, talks to ladies and the fans at the line and says, do you think WCW sucks? And they all say DX rules wrestling. This was a bad look for WCW that they're in their hometown doing this. Yeah. Nitro is, and this was something that we really don't see WWE do often. I mean, WWF, this is them recognizing the competition and taking a shot from underneath.
Yeah, directly too. Like that's, I mean, we've seen Bischoff call out Vince before, but there was never any retaliation because he was just trying to, like, there's little jabs here and there, like in commentary, but this is full force fucking with the, devil. Like, this is awesome. I love it, man.
So intertwined in this are some other wrestling matches. Bangers taking on Terry Funk and Too Cold Scorpio. This match also ended in a no contest, 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Not really a match at all, but just more of a showcase for the tag teams that are involved.
Love it.
And, again, this whole show is focal pointed against the DX and at Nitro. So we get right into that again. They're at the doors of the arena. Triple H has a horn and wants to know who wants free tickets that WCW gave away in order to fill up their arena on TV. And then Triple H states they were firing the first shot, and X-Pac wants Scott Hall. And they're asking for Scott and Kevin Nash to come out, and Triple H starts to chant, "Let my people go." So what are your thoughts on this?
This is DX and pedal to the metal, full like, this is the best shit ever. And it's funny because everybody considers Shawn Michaels a big part of DX, but he really, besides starting it with Triple H after this Mania, like, this is DX. This is where it really goes in the full force. This is beautiful. This is fucking hilarious. It was good quality content. I love it.
So we get Vince McMahon coming down to a chorus of boos, and everyone's chanting for Austin. Vince cuts a promo saying that, you know what? Like, Austin can't be champion. Like, I have a concussion. I'm suffering dizziness and nausea. And he says I should fire Stone Cold. And he says, not yet. He said, fire would be too good, but he has other plans, and they are right here. He will defend his championship against Goldust. And we'd like to introduce the official who will ref tonight, a former tag champ and a family friend as well, and a warm and caring human being, Gerald Briscoe. So Gerald Briscoe will be referee of this match, Goldust versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. The screw jobs begin where Vince is going to be completely, I mean, he'll be successful eventually, but Stone Cold is going to get one up on Vince almost every single week for the next inevitable amount of time.
Yeah, it's hilarity ensues because it's like strap on. It's going to be the best. We got a lot of shenanigans on Austin's end, but this was cool. The Goldust thing was random as shit, but I loved it. I thought this was a fun little Vince segment. Damn it.
we go back to DX at Nitro, and obviously Triple H is still trying to knock on the door, and Billy Gunn says, I just want to talk with Eric Bischoff. They're knocking on the garage door, and X-Pac is saying he's bitter that he's still fired. So this got to be bitter. This has got to be sweet for X-Pac to be involved on the other side, the successful side.
Yeah, no, it's hilarious though. Like, that's what I said. This is those things, you make a power move like that, like Bischoff did by firing him, it's gonna bite you on the ass, and this is one of many ways it did.
So we have Bradshaw defeating Jeff Jarrett with Tennessee lead by DQ, 1 minute and 15 seconds. Angle advancement continuing to get Bradshaw over, and here we also get Kai and Tai, or the Kamikazes, coming in, assaulting and overwhelming Bradshaw. And then the Dude with a Mask comes in and takes out Taka. So weird stuff, mid-card stories, which I'm here for. It's okay to do mid-card stories.
Choppy pee pee. We're almost there.
So we have Kevin Kelly with Do Love, and he's upset because Vince is not giving him another title shot. He said he wants to know what's going on. He doesn't want to be screwed. And Vince says, I want the mic cut. And Kevin swipes his hand, yelling at him, and that he owns the mic. So Do Love now on the receiving end of like, damn, I thought I was your dude. Now it's going to be Goldust. What's going on?
I like it. It's good.
So we finally have DX out here. They're back from Nitro. Obviously, it's taped, and Triple H's asked the crowd if they're ready for the main event of the evening, acting like Michael Buffer. And he tells them to get ready to suck it. I think it's the first time we probably saw this act. Like, let's get ready to suck it.
That's great. And how awesome is it that it stems from them doing the invasion? So it's fucking great.
That is a good point. Very good point. That's probably exactly why they did it.
Love it.
So we get a short match with the New Age Outlaws. The Disciples Apocalypse defeated the New Age Outlaws with DX in the corner. So DOA calls out LOD and DX, and they do not look pleased. And we get the ending here where DOA made the switch. Gunn's turned over and pinned after a pile driver courtesy of Gunn towards Skull. Weird ending here. 8-Ball's nailed by DX. Dog tags in. Gunn, whose offense does not last, as he side slams Skull, gets the hot tag, unleashes some clothesline, but turns into a pile driver courtesy of Gunn. DOA made the switch, and Gunn is turned over and pinned. So weird ending here. But DOA gets the win. What is the choice of having DOA get the win over the Outlaws? Bizarre, especially when LOD can't get the win. What the hell is going on?
I'm still wondering why DOA's got a job. But yes, this is also one of the bizarre things on their list. Wild. Absolutely wild.
Non-title match, by the way. Triple H makes it clear, holding up the title, saying you're not the champs. So very weird. So DOA could win back from everyone peeing on their motorcycles, I guess. That's what we're doing.
I guess so. Well, after such a successful night, it's really stupid.
You want fluff? Go eat a marshmallow.
Yeah.
All right, here comes Taker, and this is a quick squash match. Taker defeats Barry Windham with Jim Cornette, 59 seconds, doesn't even make a minute. Undertaker grabs the mic, tells Kane they looked into his eyes, and he looked into the eyes of the dragon and got burned. He wants him to come down the ring so they can finish it, and he's not moving until he comes out. Bear on the top of the ramp with Kane. Paul Bearer squeals that it's not supposed to be like this. It was supposed to be Undertaker who burned in the flames. Once again, it was Kane who had to suffer. He talks about Kane crying to his mother, and the fans are booing the shit out of Paul Bearer. And Bearer wants a truce. He bled last night because, by the way, we didn't even mention on the Unforgiven thing how cut open Paul Bearer was during that match. Cut open the hard way, it looked like, from that drum.
New Jack gigged him, man. It was great.
So pretty much Paul Bearer saying that Kane is his son too, and that he's saying, I guess he's alluding to Taker, hey, I banged your mom. That's pretty much what he's saying.
Fair point, I guess. Like, I just
we get Kevin Kelly in the back talking to Goldust about tonight, and he said he's going to make the WWF proud when he becomes the champ. And then dude runs in and takes him down and pounds him, and Luna tries to stop him and takes a bunch of officials to pull him off. So Dude Love trying to get a shot at the title, but not going to happen. We'll see what happens. And we get DX again. Triple H is upset about DOA killing his buzz on a night when he should be on a high. He challenges any member of the Disciples of Apocalypse to a title match for the European title. But here comes Dan Severn. And he did say anyone in the back. Cornette's trying to calm him down as Triple H is ready to rumble, and Severn ignores Cornette's pleas. Jim Cornette slaps him and gets slammed and puts in a chokehold while in an armbar. So we get no match, but we get Triple H still feuding with DOA in the back.
Fair.
We also get Val Venus in a car, and a woman's head pops up and asks if she found the keys and tells her to take another look, as she does. So Val Venus vignette is him getting a blowjob in a car. So very WWF 1998.
Bravo.
We get a quick Mark Marrow segment talking about Sable. Not really much talking about it. He is clearly, they're still doing the same act over and over again. And we lead right into the main event here. Steve Austin. Well, Vince is thanking Briscoe in advance as they shake hands when they get to this match. It's Steve Austin defending his title against the artist formerly known as Goldust with Luna. Match ends as you expect in a no contest. Gerald Briscoe was the special guest referee. It goes 8 minutes and 40 seconds. This might be Goldust only shot at the world title ever, right? Like, maybe Dustin Rhodes got a shot at the WCW title.
I don't know. Maybe that's wild to even think about, but yeah, I think you're right. Wow.
So let's go to the ending here. We get Briscoe starts to count and then stops and checks his eye for a lost contact after Austin hits the stunner on Goldust. Vince acts concerned. Austin's mad, and here comes Dude Love. And he takes it to Austin, clothesline him, and knock him to the floor. Austin makes a comeback, backdrops Dude Love. Austin then hits a whole bunch of punches on him, and then Briscoe shoves him away, and Austin backs off, and here comes Vince with the belt. He opens up for Briscoe with it, and Briscoe is out, and Austin gives Vince the finger and celebrates in the ring, and that's it. So with Briscoe down, there's no one that comes out. Goldust is just a pawn in this. I wish they would have chose someone differently, because I think if they chose, I don't know, looking at the roster, maybe someone, I don't know, not Goldust, especially this version of Goldust. It was weird to see him in this spot, especially with now that we know how troubled Goldust was in this era.
Yeah, I think it was the show, like, Dude Love's a jackass. Like, he, like it was supposed to be a slight to Dude Love's character. So I think there was a good meaning behind it. But yeah, Goldust was a weird choice no matter what. But it was like Foley's like, I'm better than him, so it works. It told a little bit of side story with it.
I guess it's just to set the story consistent that no matter what Vince does, he can't screw Austin out of the belt, and like you can throw anything at him, he's still you can stack the deck, and he's still gonna find a way to do it. I mean, it was fun. Like, I'm not gonna say it wasn't. It was. So yeah,
it was great. I remember the Gerald Briscoe shit was hysterical too. Like, oh my contact fell. Like, you gotta love the shit, fucking whack shenanigans that they're pulling out of their asses to try to, get a little bit more. It was awesome.
Get into the chase about our favorite part of the 2 nights of Raw, and of course, Unforgiven.
The Chaser.
All right, Mike Belcaster, what's your favorite part of these 3 events we reviewed?
Man, there's so much. These are hard ass choices because it's just loaded. Like, it's wild that the first Raw was just moment after moment. You have DX. I have to go with the DX invasion because that was so groundbreaking, so ballsy, done very, very well, and just the growth of DX in general. We've seen a lot of like this is what we are now. Like, it's not as hokey jokey like with Shawn Michaels, or it's a little more hokey and jokey than it was with Shawn Michaels, but in a good way. Austin Vince stuff, amazing. Like, there's so much, but I'm going with DX.
I agree with you completely. Austin Vince is the highlight of the show, but I'm going to go with the Dude Love Austin match. Just the brawl and how great it was. And it was a DQ finish, but it was done perfectly, and all the characters are so invested and so well developed too. Like, even Briscoe and Patterson, they're so well developed on the outside that they feel like them and like their intentions, and everyone is so well defined. And I think that's what's made clear during all these Raws. It feels like the top of the card, mid card leaves a lot to be desired, but it's carried by these characters. Is why people remember these moments. You go down the list, you can go with the Inferno match, you can go with Dude Love and Vince McMahon, and you can also go to the DX and Nitro stuff. Like, that's really,
so much.
Really, in a way, it's huge.
Yeah, ridiculous.
All right, let's close the tab, give our final wrap up, get prepared for episode 8, and of course, get our St. Paddy's Day weekend started.
Closing the tab.
All right, the lights are coming on the bar. We're preparing for our show next week. It's going to be episode 8 of season 3. Believe it or not, 3/24/23. We're reviewing the May 4th Raw, the May 11th Raw, and the May 18th Raw. Great episode, man. What do we have planned for the docket? We have a minute left. Let's get it in.
Woo, we got just turnbuckletavern.com, man. Go check it out. Subscribe. Follow everything. We're on every platform possible. Basically, we got a hell of a schedule, and if you're right here, for Shot of Nostalgia, check out all the other goods. We're plethora filled with content just for you guys. So go give us some love.
It's WrestleMania season. Make sure to check out all the different shows. We have a Visit the Tavern happening next Friday. It's going to be myself and the returning Jack Tomlinson. He's never been on the Tavern, but I did interview him. We're going to be talking about everything going on with Victory Pro Wrestling, the 17-year anniversary show. And of course, buy tickets to Cream of the Crop, Remarkable Wrestling, Ken Broadway, Gabriel Sky, 203 Falls, and go support all your independent wrestling. We'll catch you guys next week. Vince Russo's in my ear. He's telling me we got to go. Mike Belcaster, happy St. Patty's Day, brother. Love you.
Happy St. Patty's Day.